Today is generally an orientation as to the things we're going to be touching. So, African Center for Community and Development is involved in integrated agriculture, which means we have a model that has mixed cropping, poultry farming, fish farming, and we are also putting the planet and the environment in focus. We all know that climate change is a very significant thing, and most organizations now are working towards curbing or mitigating climate change and its incidences. So it is a major aspect of any project, be it agriculture, whatever the focus. So with fisheries, we also have to put the planet in focus, the environment, and all these things. And that is also going to be part of our training program. And for today, I will show you practically our fish and poultry assets at the African Center for Community and Development. And you will also participate in one or two practical work so that we can mix theory and practice together. Africa has more than 60% or 65% of the world's remaining arable land. Therefore, agriculture has a lot of hope for Africa. The population is growing at 2.6% annually, and we have about 500 million youths in Africa by 2050. These people need to feed. They need to take care of their families. They need to grow. So agriculture has a lot of potentials. In a context like Africa, where we have 30% of the population considered as malnourished, where 1 of every 3 infants under 5 is considered as stunted, fisheries, livestock keeping, agriculture, the environment becomes very, very important. And so, in this training program, we will be looking at things from a very holistic point of view, in order that when you leave the training and you want to start your businesses, they are not only green, but they also put in focus the local realities of malnutrition, climate change, stunting, poverty, and so on. And so we also think best ways of growing livestock with local materials will also matter, because most of the times we depend on imported feed and so on in feeding our animals and so on. And these things are impacted by speculation and also prices that are beyond our control. And therefore, it also makes us spend more rather than cutting costs. It makes many people like you, Olivia, will look at it as a little bit difficult and challenging because it's a little bit expensive. Whereas if we adopt local materials, it can be more adoptable. So this is, all you have is fish feed, premium fish feed. They are locally made fish feed, but these are imported fish feed. So it is nice that you know that fish feed is generally imported here because we don't have the technology. Even though now the technology is accessible, it depends on your budget. So there are people who have the possibility of getting pellet making machines, fish feed making machines. So, but that's also going to implicate their startup cost. You know, because if you have to get the machine, it means that when you want to start fish farming, your cost is going to increase. And some people who just generally buy, and that's the general population. and so on. So the reason why this imported fish feed, right, is competing with local fish feed in Cameroon is this thing. Throw it there. Throw inside. You see. Look, yes, okay. You see, it floats. Local fish feed generally doesn't float. It sinks. So therefore, it can. This one fish can access it readily on the water, but the local feed is going to go under the water, so there's a high risk of pollution. There's a high risk of pollution, and when there is pollution, based on all those nitrates in the water and so on, fish cannot live well. They will die because they need to breathe from the water. So one good thing that Africa can do and Cameroon can do is to have floating fish feed. And so we have to work on that as part of the innovation that we need to sustain aquaculture in Cameroon and Africa. So you can come and feed catfish here as well, so that you see that they have a little bit of different feeding habits. Catfish is more aggressive. Catfish? Yes. Yeah, so climb. Yes, you can climb on top. Fish farmers should be willing to face water. Fish farmers in the making.